Hello and welcome to the F1 News Zone, the show where we round up all the biggest stories in Formula 1 right now. We're currently in a 2-week gap between the Saudi Arabian and Miami Grand Prix, so let's have a look at the biggest news stories in the break right now. This week, Italy is losing faith in Sir Lewis Hamilton at Ferrari. George Russell has said that it'd be understandable if Mercedes signed Max Verstappen, and the McLaren drivers have disagreed on their apparent pace advantage. Find out why and a whole lot more in today's video. If you're watching on YouTube, skip to the timestamps in the video description to watch the story that you're most interested in. So, without further ado, let's dive in. I don't like seeing stuff like this, but I can see why people are saying stuff like this as well. Apparently, the Italians, the Italian media, the press, the people, they're all giving up on Lewis Hamilton. They are losing faith in the 7-time world champion, the most successful man in the history of Formula 1. They are not thinking that he is the guy to take this team forward, to propel them to championship winning ways. And the first time in 17 years since he himself stopped Felipe Massa winning the Drivers' Championship in 2008. Obviously, Ferrari did win the Constructors that year, but yeah, no driver has done that since Kimi Räikkönen back in 2007. What a guy. But yeah, I don't like to see stuff like this. I'm recording this just after the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. This article was written just before the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, and unfortunately, it's not really kind of strengthened the argument saying that Hamilton is worth it and Hamilton is the right man for Ferrari. Now, I'm not for 1 second suggesting that he's not. I'm not doing that. I'm not giving up personally. I'm not doing that. But apparently some people are. Let's have a look at what's been said, guys. Full article on the F1Chronicle.com as always. After all of the pre-season hype, Lewis Hamilton's red adventure at Ferrari is already turning grey. From promises to doubts, the headline at Corriere della Sera reads, referring to the more complicated than expected transition for the 7-time world champion from Mercedes to Maranello. The report expressed disappointment that while Hamilton's predecessor Carlos Sainz is finally starting to settle at Williams, the same is not occurring at Ferrari. Even rookies like Ollie Bearman at Haas have needed less time to adapt, Corriere della Sera declared, and that is causing embarrassment inside and outside of Maranello. Slight difference though, Ollie Bearman did do races last season for Haas, and he has been quite active in that team as a test and development driver in the past before becoming a full-time driver in 2025, so little difference there. But yes, Hamilton is vastly more experienced than Bearman, so it's not really a fair comparison. Some are wondering if the 40-year-old Hamilton's Ferrari adventure could end as soon as December. Former high-profile Ferrari engineer Luigi Mazzoli told Sky Italia that Hamilton's 2025 season reminds him of Sebastian Vettel's ill-fated last couple of seasons in red. Both in 2019 and 2020, Vettel's teammate was Charles Leclerc. Leclerc is like Max Verstappen, Mazzoli said. He can handle a difficult car. It's his driving style. Vettel, now retired, is actually in Saudi Arabia this weekend and he is defending the struggle in Hamilton. It's a new environment, a new culture, different people. Some simply need longer to find their way around, the quadruple world champion told Sky Deutschland. There is no doubt about the fact that Lewis can drive. He can do everything that's asked of him. It's also completely normal to need a bit of time, said the German. If development moves in the right direction, Ferrari will be in a completely different position. They were very strong last year and only just missed out on the Constructors' Championship. You shouldn't write off either the team or the driver for the championships, Vettel said. I think it is a bit early to write them off, yeah, I would say that. I would also say that the car is not really there in terms of being a consistent performer. It had that one bright spark in China, that sprint where Hamilton won, obviously, his first win for Ferrari. And since then, he's not really troubled even the podium, to be honest. He's not had a single official podium, has he? Because sprint wins and podiums don't count toward your official podium tally. So I don't think he's had a top 3 yet. Aside from that, has he, guys? I can't think of one. I'm pretty sure he hasn't. Aside from that, in the actual races, let's just get rid of the sprint for a second, put that to one side, let's forget about that, and we'll, start to remember it again for Miami, because there's a sprint coming up there, I do believe. It's tough because Leclerc has outperformed Hamilton, and I think this weekend in Saudi Arabia, there's no mitigating circumstances, like getting stuck behind a slower Alex Albon. In Australia, you could argue, that's a bit of a mitigating circumstance there. You could argue that. But yeah, I mean, to see Hamilton struggling relatively, I mean, he was so far off Leclerc this weekend. There is no excuse for being that far, but Leclerc got a podium. He got a top 3. Hamilton 7th. The worst of the first, if that's the thing. If there's a best of the rest, he was the worst of the first. The worst of that leading group in the top 7. Obviously, Yuki Tsunoda crashed out, so wasn't quite a top 8. But yeah, the Sainz comparison is an interesting one. And I actually, full disclosure, guys. I picked these articles to talk about. I've just gone for a little walk. Just been listening to some radio, some podcasts and stuff about F1, just to kind of fill my head on with F1 stuff before I go and do these videos with you guys. And, someone made a really good point about, Sainz struggling. And I was thinking, Sainz did struggle for a bit, to adapt. And I think a key conversation was had, if you guys remember, in the press conference. I think it might have been before Australia. It was earlier on in the season, first 2 rounds. It was either Australia or China. And Sainz and Hamilton were both in the same press conference. Obviously, Hamilton has replaced Carlos Sainz effectively at Ferrari. Sainz is now racing for Williams. Sainz really struggled at Williams. He's now getting some consistency together. He's got a good amount of pace. He's up there with Alex Albon, if not actually beating him as well. So, I think he's finally got that, but it took a little while for him to adapt. And now this is a guy, Carlos Sainz, that is very used to moving teams. He's moved teams a lot. He's only been in Formula 1 for 11 seasons in total now, and he's driven for Toro Rosso, Renault, Ferrari, McLaren, and now Williams. He's had 5 teams. So the average time he spends at these teams is just a tiny bit over 2 seasons on average. So this is a guy that's used to, racing for different teams. And he said that the way that Ferrari approach, I'm sure every team has their own way of doing things. There'll be some things that are unique, for good, for better or worse, there will be. But the way they were talking about Ferrari and how different they do everything, the way they have I can't remember what it was some sort of data thing, some sort of analysis thing, and Ferrari have theirs upside down or backwards compared to every other team on the grid, and just little things like that. And I feel like that's probably not helping. But at the same time, it has been a bit disappointing. I'll say it as someone who is, I won't say a fan of Hamilton, but enjoyed seeing him do well. I respect him as, one of the GOATs for sure. Definitely one of the GOATs, maybe the GOAT, some people say. You guys know who my GOAT is, though. I'm not going to say who it is, but it's not Hamilton. Although Hamilton could become the GOAT, in my opinion, if he wins some championships with Ferrari. But without that, it's not going to happen for me. But yeah, it has been a bit disappointing. I hope it'll improve. I hope it will. But yeah, right now on the current trajectory of things, Leclerc has handily beaten Hamilton in all 3 of the Grand Prix in this triple header. Japan, Bahrain, Saudi. He's been a good 2 or 3 places above him. At times been like 10 seconds, 15 seconds ahead of him over a race distance. And that's like a third of a second, half of a second around some tracks. That's a lot. That's a big gap. So yeah, I would be a bit concerned for Hamilton, but I also recognise that he's still got... the thing is, everybody was doubting him last year, right? Everybody was doubting him. And then he goes and does Silverstone. He has that in his locker. Same with China. He has that in his locker. He has Canada this year, right? Mark my words. He's going to get it together by Canada. I might regret saying that, but he loves racing around Canada. I feel like that's the first track that we're going to go to where it's like, this is a Lewis circuit. He loves it here. He's always loved it here. Canada, Silverstone, does really well around both of those. So I feel like he's going to do, but Hungary as well. Hungaroring. It's going to happen. I'm going to regret saying that, aren't I? But how fast is the McLaren in Formula 1 right now? Is it half a second faster than the field, a third of a second, a quarter of a second, a whole second? It depends on you ask. And that also extends to Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri, their 2 drivers, as well, as they don't agree on how much of an advantage their car has. So let's have a look at what Norris and Piastri have been saying about their papaya machine. Full article on the F1Chronicle.com as always. They are yet to have a major on-track clash, but off the track, Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri do not see eye to eye on one particular topic. After crashing in qualifying and then finishing in 4th place in the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, former championship leader Norris insisted that the McLaren may no longer have the fastest car in Formula 1. However, he says that is no surprise to him. No, it's not surprising, Norris said. They, Red Bull, are just as fast as us in qualifying and in the race too, said the British driver, whose teammate Piastri won at Jeddah and took over the points lead. Just because we are fast in practice, people are saying all kinds of nonsense, Norris added. Let them say what they want. We don't believe that we have much of an advantage. I actually think that Max Verstappen would have been the fastest in the race had he not had that penalty. People keep saying that we are the best, we are the fastest, blah, blah, blah. But that is only because we show a bit more pace in practice and then it's over in qualifying. That's our way of doing things. That's how we believe and optimize things. If we didn't do it that way, we'd be even further behind. Norris therefore left Jeddah not only vowing to work on minimising his own mistakes, but declaring that McLaren also has work to do. We suffer on a track like this, he said. We suffer with DRS compared to other teams. We are not fast enough on the straights. When asked about his teammates' remarks, championship leader Piastri had a straightforward answer as to whether he agrees. No, said the Australian as he smiled. I think our car is still quicker. Max was quicker than I expected for sure, and we clearly have got some work to do, but I think our car is still very good. I think we still have an advantage. I don't think it's as big on surfaces like this and layouts like this, but we still have a very strong car at the moment. However, McLaren CEO Zak Brown sides a little more with Norris's perspective, including the concept that while Red Bull tends to use less engine power on Fridays, McLaren takes a different approach. You never know who's using which strategy in which practice, he told Sky Deutschland. Our race pace is better than on a single lap. We are strong on a single lap too, but Max is strong, a great driver, and so are Mercedes and Ferrari. You can certainly assume that all four will win races this year, Brown added. So while Norris and Piastri disagree off track, Red Bull advisor Dr. Helmut Marko thinks the real advantage for Verstappen's team is that the orange-coloured duo are both in contention for the World Championship. I doubt either of them will submit to any team orders, he told ORF, and it's actually a great opportunity for us to have them fight each other. We prefer it if one wins alternatively than the other, Marko smiled. Well, yeah, of course. It is interesting because, you know, I don't think even the biggest McLaren fan, and I'm a pretty big McLaren fan, would ever say that Piastri and Verstappen and Norris are all kind of in the same league as each other. They're not far off each other in terms of the performance of car and driver right now, and the championship shows that. But level playing field, Verstappen beats both of them. Verstappen probably beats anybody right now in Formula 1. That's how good he is. But I agree more with Piastri. And I think Piastri, it's the psychological battle. I know that Norris and Piastri get on with each other, but they both recognise that they are both in a championship battle this season. For the first time ever, both of them are. Norris was last season, a little bit, but he's properly in a battle this year, and his teammate is his main competitor. And he knows that the psychological warfare is big. If Piastri wins, Piastri has every right to then say, yeah, you know, my car is the fastest car, I am the fastest driver, I have won 3 out of the first 5 races. However, alternatively, Norris has struggled relatively. He's not won since the opening round of the season. So then he will say, well, no, the car is not the best. There's not that much between us and Mercedes and Red Bull and Ferrari, because that then legitimizes his position. And with Norris also saying that, oh, the car isn't the fastest, and then Piastri being told that and asked to respond, it puts Norris down. I'm not saying what Piastri is doing is wrong. He's doing the right thing. He's doing exactly the right thing. Both of them are. Both of them are being very clever and choosing their words very wisely right now. And I like it. I like this. It's good competition, you know. It's fair. I'm waiting for this on-track battle. We saw a little bit of it in Japan, but I want to see an all-out ding-dong battle, as we would say here, between these two guys, because I think it'd be absolutely incredible, to be honest. And I wouldn't rule out them coming to blows at some point as well. We've seen it so many times, the Mercedes, the Red Bulls, the Ferraris back in the day. You know, the McLarens back in the day too, of course, as well. Remember Alonso and Hamilton? I do. I'm old enough to remember that. Crazy times. But yeah, there we go, guys. Interesting quotes. I think that McLaren have a small advantage, probably 1/4 of a second, 3/10 of a second, something like that. I think Piastri was holding back a little bit in the race. On one lap, though, in the right conditions, that Red Bull in the hands of Max Verstappen, Can beat anybody. But I think overall in race pace, I would put the McLaren at an advantage. And I think, to be honest, because of how long the season is, how limited they are in terms of their components, a potential safety car, things like that, I do think that Piastri was holding back a little bit in Saudi. I don't think he was going all out 100% because he knew that Verstappen had that penalty, or was hoping he was going to get one, and he did. So he didn't need to push all out. Because if you look at the pace of Norris's pace was absolutely incredible in Saudi at times. And I think if he started in the top 5, he would have probably finished second place behind Piastri. But it's only because he was so far down that he didn't have a chance of that. But yeah, your thoughts in the comments below, guys. I want to hear what you have to say about this. Do McLaren have the fastest car in Formula 1 right now? Is it Piastri correct, or is it Norris, or is it a bit of both? Something tells me I'm going to have to get the bleep machine out on this article here, because Frederic Vasseur, the team principal of Scuderia Ferrari, has come out in very strong and defiant defence of his star driver, or one of his star drivers, Sir Lewis Hamilton, the 7-time world champion. He's had a mixed bag of results, really, when it comes to his time at Ferrari so far. More bad than good, I would say, if I'm being totally honest. At the end of the day, of course, he did win the Chinese Grand Prix sprint, but aside from that, he has been very much outpaced by Charles Leclerc. Is that because Charles Leclerc is supremely talented? Is it because Sir Lewis Hamilton is overrated? Is he struggling to get up to speed with the car? It's all differing opinions at the end of the day. Everyone's got one, and Frederic Vasseur, like I said, he is very much... It's very much come out in defence of Hamilton, let's just say. So like I said, probably going to be one or two bleeps in here. I gave a little scan of the article before I'm going to read it here. And yeah, there's a few bits normally I would take out or just kind of skip over, but hey, let's have some fun. Why the hell not? Full article on the F1Chronicle.com as always. Frederic Vasseur could not hold back the expletives as he slammed recent reporting about Lewis Hamilton's struggle to get up to speed at Ferrari. There is no doubt that the 7-time world champion is yet to live up to the pre-season hype of his move from Mercedes, with Ferrari boss Vasseur even admitting as he departed Jeddah he's having too many ups and downs. The partisan Italian media agrees, with La Gazzetta dello Sport declaring that Hamilton has so far fallen well short of expectations. But Vasseur was particularly triggered by a reporter who asked the Frenchman why he thinks 40-year-old Hamilton's personal performance has dropped so dramatically in 2025. Dramatically, Vasseur exclaimed. We did 5 races so far. I know you want a big headline, saying Fred said this, but this is Vasseur said the kind of ups and downs he's referring to earlier are normal in sport, making clear that he will continue to support Hamilton's push to find his form. I will be 2000% behind him, he insisted. I'm not worried at all. We'll start to find solutions and we'll start to immediately discover the causes. Vasseur said he thinks Hamilton is sometimes treated differently from other drivers. I suspect that you didn't draw the same conclusion with Max Verstappen when he was 7th last week. As for the journalist at the receiving end of Vasseur's anger, the Ferrari boss continued, you just do what you want. I'm not going to worry about you. However, the reporter is not the only one critical of Hamilton or even Vasseur. Well-known Italian F1 insider Leo Torini said that the 56-year-old Frenchman who runs the Ferrari team, Vasseur's balance sheet says this: 1 podium in 5 races. Is that enough? Not at all. Can we imagine a better future? Maybe, even if the disappointment is palpable, especially considering that there is another Ferrari, the one from the WEC, that wins, Torini added. As for Hamilton, Torini continued that he is slower than Leclerc on a lap. Well, I took for granted. The point is the size of the gap. Now, I don't like the attacks, and I supported Lewis's hiring, and I hope he can prove right those who, like me, believed in the sporting validity of the signing. We'll see, while keeping in mind that the doubts of many are legitimate. Spanish commentator Antonio Lobato, however, suspects Ferrari made the decision to oust Carlos Sainz in favour of Hamilton with commercial interests front of mind. Is that what they wanted? To sell caps and t-shirts and nothing more, he said on DAZN. I say if you really want to take over social media and sell a lot of caps, sign Jennifer Lopez instead, and you might sell even more. J-Lo was at the race in Saudi, wasn't she? She was wearing an interesting outfit. She's definitely not lacking confidence. Good for her. But yeah, but yeah, I mean, listen, I'm a Hamilton defender at the end of the day. I do think him going to Ferrari is something that he needed. Whether Ferrari needed that or not is debatable. Right now, he is relatively struggling. I think it's pretty obvious that's the case. But at the end of the day, we're going to get good weekends and bad weekends. We're saying 1 podium in 5 races, and that's true. But he also did win the Chinese sprint. And I know, before anybody says it, it's not a Grand Prix. I know. But he still showed that he's got something. And I think Hamilton's just going to take a bit of time to get used to that car, really, because he does perform decently well on some weekends, and then some weekends not so much. I mean, Saudi was a bad one. He was really off it. He really was. I mean, like, 30 seconds by the finish behind Charles Leclerc. It's not great, really, is it? It's half a second a lap around a track like that, coming up to that kind of gap. So that's a lot, and it don't look good, I'll be honest. But, I do think he's a person that has so much experience of winning at Mercedes and McLaren, and that is something that Ferrari is missing, or it was missing anyway. So we'll see what happens. Long way to go. We're like just over a fifth of the way through the season. We're yet to go to a track that I would say is a proper Hamilton circuit. And I've said this a few times in my videos previously. When we get to Silverstone, Canada, Hungary, these are Hamilton circuits. He does so well around there. Let's see how he does then. If he's still being beaten comfortably by Charles Leclerc, then I think questions have to be asked, really, at that point. Now, I'm not saying they should get rid of him. I'm not. But questions has to be asked. Why is he not performing at this point? You would be saying the same about anybody. Drivers get a lot less time in the sport than even that. There's rumours about Jack Doohan, for example, not even racing in Miami in a couple of weeks because Colapinto's going to come in. Completely different scenario, completely different drivers and everything like that. But you know what I mean? These things can turn around fast in Formula One. So, yeah, we'll see what happens, guys. I've already done a few questions, really, when it comes to Hamilton. I think I know most of your guys' kind of opinions, but I've not really asked, can Hamilton turn this around? And if so, when? When will he turn this around? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. An interesting headline here on the F1Chronicle.com, and it is concerning the future of George Russell at Mercedes-AMG. Now, of course, apparently Russell has an offer on the table that will keep him at the Silver Hours until the end of the 2028 season. However, his future is a little bit in doubt because of the rumours around Max Verstappen potentially joining the team. Rumours that seem very much on when the Red Bull aren't performing and then off again when they are performing. Now, Red Bull didn't have a terrible weekend in Saudi Arabia this past weekend. Max Verstappen sensationally got pole position, and arguably if it wasn't for the penalty they picked up in the first corner, he could have won the race. Nevertheless, he finished down in P2. Still a very good result, and very much does kind of cool those rumours of Verstappen leaving Red Bull early. Now, of course, George Russell as well. On top of that, the most important thing is that he is really performing well. I mean, he got P3 in qualifying for Saudi Arabia and finished in P5. The race pace was just not there for Mercedes, unfortunately, but Mr. Consistency keeps up those top 5 finishes. He's finished in the top 5 of every single race in the 2025 season so far, including 3 podiums. Very impressive stuff indeed. But despite all that, despite all of that, at the end of my intro, I have to bookend it by saying that George Russell says that it would be understandable if Toto Wolff signs Max Verstappen. Interesting take from the guy that might well be replaced by him if that was the case. I can't see Kimi Antonelli leaving the team that soon. In truth, to be honest, I think it's very unlikely that George Russell is going to leave. I don't see Max Verstappen going to Mercedes right now. I think that Aston Martin would be a more likely destination if he does indeed leave Red Bull, and I think that, on the whole, is pretty unlikely personally. But anyway, probably the longest intro ever. Definitely up there. Top 5, just like a George Russell intro. A top 5 of George intros in terms of length for a video. Let's have a look at what's been said here, guys. Let's have a look at the full story here on the F1Chronicle.com as always. George Russell says that it would be completely understandable if Mercedes made a bid to sign Max Verstappen for 2026. Rumours about Max Verstappen's future are swirling more intensely than ever in the Jeddah paddock. Amid suggestions, Saudi Arabia's sovereign wealth fund is behind a 3-year, $300 million offer to sign the quadruple world champion. Mercedes boss Toto Wolff is also interested, although he's keeping it publicly quiet, to back the current lineup of Russell and rookie Kimi Antonelli. Russell is out of contract at the end of the year, but he's also riding a career high form. Ousting Antonelli would seem unlikely, but so too is the prospect of a Russell-Verstappen partnership. There's very much previous when it comes to those two, as we know. I don't think so, Vowles, the Williams boss, who is still close to Wolff, said in Saudi Arabia when asked if he can imagine the two drivers as teammates. I think they are two very different characters. That is putting it very diplomatically, Mr. Vowles, for sure. Russell, however, sounds more open to the idea, or at least pragmatic about Verstappen's potential availability. Why wouldn't they want to sign Max, the British driver said. That is completely understandable. He's the best driver at the moment. He's a 4-time world champion. That's nothing against myself or Kimi. There are 2 drivers for each team, and he, Verstappen, is just one person. If Russell sounds relaxed, it could be because he left Bahrain a few days ago amid authoritative speculation that Wolff was poised to offer him a lucrative new 2-year contract. Rumours are never very reliable, are they? He laughed at Jeddah. Some of them are pretty close to reality, I guess, but at the end of the day, we never discuss contracts until May or June of a season. Russell also pointed out that as Verstappen's current situations is proving, contracts in Formula 1 are rarely worth much more than the cost of the paper and the lawyer's fees. When it comes to the contracts, everybody gets excited, but the fact is that drivers have contracts, and if they don't perform, they will get replaced. For drivers, performances are currency, he said. That's all we have. I'm not worried because my performance speaks for itself. I'm performing as well as anyone on the grid at the moment. I mean, it's fair, really. He's doing really, really well. Can't deny it. Top 5 in every race in a car that is 2nd or 3rd fastest most weekends. Very good. Very impressive. The only guy to do that, I think so. Maybe Norris has done it. I'm not too sure, actually. But anyway, Norris has got a much better car. Let's be real here. You know, Russell is not in that good of a car. It's a good car, but it ain't McLaren level. You know, it's a long way off of that. They are some way off of that. And I think, you know, I've spoken about George Russell potentially winning the championship this year. I don't think it's likely, but while he's still getting those top 5 finishes, and while he's still up there close to those guys at the top, I think he very much does have a chance. It's very unlikely, and it would require A, Mercedes to improve their pace a lot, B, for Mercedes to actually develop their car significantly instead of focusing on 2024, and also C as well, just a bit of luck. He needs to get some wins, and right now the only way for him to get a win is to get a bit lucky. But he did at times last year. Austria, his first win, he was lucky that, you know, Norris and Verstappen crashed out in front of him. So, you know, these things can happen. These things can definitely happen. But is it likely? No. Is it possible? Yeah, it's possible. Not much more than that, though. But yeah, guys, let me know what you think. Would Mercedes be dumb to pass up the opportunity to actually sign Max Verstappen? I think they would be dumb to pass that up, but I don't see that opportunity coming personally. I think it's much more likely to go to Aston Martin. And right now, as I record this just after the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, I think he's going to stay put for now. How long that'll take, I don't know. Maybe 27. Alonso's contract's expiring. Stroll's contract's expiring for whatever that's worth. Aston Martin. I'm just saying. But yeah, your thoughts in the comments below, guys. Hope you have a great day wherever you are. And I hope you enjoyed the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix as well. Decent race from what I saw of it. Not bad at all. Definitely better than Japan. Not quite Bahrain levels of craziness, but very interesting for the hardcore F1 fan, I'd say. Like, share, comment, and subscribe if you want to see some more of this. And I'll probably put a video talking about George Russell and how he might be in the title fight. Maybe he's not at the end of this video on YouTube. If you're not on YouTube, check out the other social medias. There's plenty of them out there. Plenty of videos as well for you guys to look at. Have a great day. See you soon.